concerning charter amendments and deconsolidation, please fill out the cards in the back of the room and bring them to the front. There'll be a 3-minute time frame in order to hear everyone. Again, comments today are related to the proposed charter amendments and or any deconsolidation. I'd like to introduce our attorneys, Mr. Mike Abear and Paul Escott. One thing that I would like to encourage, and I'm thankful that they came, is I want the audience to ask questions that you don't understand what's going on inside the meat of the charter amendment. They're the legal team. They're going to know a lot more about it than I will. And whether you're for or against what's going to be happening, in December you'll be able to vote on it. It's going to pass. It's going to be sent to the voters in December. I'd like to introduce Mr. William Theriot, District 9.
Thank you. Pretty much the same thing with what Jared said. We want to thank you all for coming. By all means, we make it very clear. There are some topics here that we're going to try and cover. As Mr. Bellard mentioned, we want to stay on point and only talk about those issues related to the charter and also those that deal with what we're calling deconsolidation, because that's what it actually is. Let's start this, if you don't mind. Just a couple of quick questions I'm going to start off the meeting with, asking our attorneys. And it's just a quick yes or no, and I'm not going to put them on the spot, and this is not to embarrass them. But these are some questions that were posed to me by residents, and they were wondering how our attorneys would answer it. I've given them an answer, but they'd like to hear Mr. Aber and Mr. Escott. The first question is that council members are saying, and some in the media is reporting, that the only thing that the proposed charter does is to separate the two councils. My readings show a lot more changes than just that one, including things like term limits, and also professional services have been changed. Is that correct? Basically what they're asking is there are a lot more changes to the charter than just separating the two councils.
Right, that's correct. And the changes that you referred to were changes that were considered necessitated by the fact that we were splitting two councils.
Okay, very
Right.
good. Thank you.
But that's a yes.
Okay. Let me do this, if you don't mind. I'm going to kind of skip over here. I got a big mouth, guy, so I don't need a mic. What I want to do is I want to bring something to everybody's attention with these two maps. This map right here is for the city of Lafayette. It's a proposed map that deals where the new city council in the city of Lafayette will represent 100% of the majority, which means that you would have 5 individuals who live inside the city limits proposing to represent everybody in the city of Lafayette, basically, information purposes, anybody in Lafayette that's on the LUS also. On the parish side, these particular district maps, and I want to reiterate, Mr. Bellard and I had nothing to do with these maps. Because number one, we did not know about the maps. We have not had any input, any conversation with the other council members in reference to the proposals of the charter, of maps, of lines, any kind of redistricting. So let's make that very clear. But what's interesting is that we would have a separation of 2 councils. The 5 city members would represent the city of Lafayette. But if you look at the parish side, every one of the districts here goes into the city of Lafayette. So in essence, you can have the 5 individuals in the city of Lafayette represent the city council, and it's very possible that you could have residents from the city of Lafayette representing the entire parish. Does everybody understand what I'm saying here? Which means every one of these districts goes into the city limits of Lafayette. So somebody from the city of Lafayette can run for every parish council seat. Everybody understand what I'm getting at? So while it may or may not happen, it is plausible that you would have 5 councilmen represent the city of Lafayette, and it's possible to have 5 councilmen from the city of Lafayette totally on the parish council. Okay? So that's one thing I definitely wanted to bring up.
Yes, sir, are you saying they can do both, or it has to be one or the other?
What I'm saying is that if their goal to split the two council passes, you would have definitely the 5 city individuals representing the city of Lafayette. But it's also possible to have 5 people from the city of Lafayette on the parish council.
But not the same fund.
That's the same one.
Yes.
So, Mr. Theriot, what you're saying is, instead of drawing up a map two maps, one that is 5 districts representing everybody that's on LUS or within the city of Lafayette, and 5 districts that are just the unincorporated area of Lafayette Parish.
Not necessarily. Not
Okay.
necessarily. The 5 districts on this side covers all of Lafayette Parish, guys. Let's be very clear.
Including-
All municipalities are
including the
included
city.
because every municipality is in the parish of Lafayette. Youngsville, Broussard, Carencro, Scott, Dusson, and Lafayette. Everybody's in the parish of Lafayette. We're a small parish. That's all of Lafayette Parish, the one to the right. Let's see here. And of course, Mr. Ascott, Mr. Aber, another one for you guys. As you're aware, and as we have discussed, because I know I've spoken with you about this at one of the meetings, that some of the members on the council were not involved in the drawing of district lines. Is that correct?
As far as I know, that's correct. Yep.
Okay.
I was not either, nor was Mr. Avery.
Yep. All right, and like I said, I want to be brief because we definitely want to get to you. I have one more thing to say here. I may have a few more questions later on, but we want you all to have the opportunity to ask questions. Please understand that Jared and myself were excluded from the discussions about this change in the charter and the creation of new city and parish districts. So there are questions we may not be able to answer. Like, for example, who actually wrote the document?
Yes.
I've heard a few council members and the legal department have possibly written it, but I've also heard of others not on the council who were involved in the drafting of the document. We don't know. We still have not been approached about any of this from any other.
Shouldn't that be
individuals.
public information? Who approved the map and who wrote it?
That's what we aim to find out.
But shouldn't it be public information?
Should be.
Is that currently available during a FOIA request?
Well, let's try this. We have our very capable legal team in before us. Mr. Ascott, could you answer the question for the public?
No secret to me. Mike Adair and I jointly drafted the proposed amendments to the charter at the request of Councilman Castile, Conk, primarily Conk and Castile.
I rest my case.
Do they have the authority to engage y'all in your feelings to do that sort of thing?
Absolutely.
They do?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So why are you excluding the others?
That's not my call.
Hang on.
Yeah.
With the exclusion, that was done by the other council members, not to let certain council members know.
So
That's
y'all
totally-
played well with
Well,
others?
they can, I want to keep this civil. That's just the facts are the facts. The legal team, I can go ask them to draft something, and they're going to go draft it. They serve all 9 of us equally. It's not that they were asked by one, they're our attorney, and they were asked, and that's what happened. We're not going to do question and answers. I encourage y'all to fill out, we only have 12 of these. It's going to be a sharp meeting. If everybody fill these out, bring it to the front, and ask your question. If we have time at the end, I guess we could try.
Yeah, we'll
question
do the
and
raise the
answer.
hands. Now, I'll tell you what, before we move
But I want to
on.
recognize the people who are filling out the cards first.
Yeah. Now, we want to do something that no other town hall has done, and we're going to do this beginning and end. First, guys, we all understand that when we get a gut feeling, and if it's too good to be true, and it's one of those things that we find hard to believe, but let me see how I can phrase this politely. How many of you have a gut feeling that this is the right thing to do right now? Please raise your hand. Deconsolidation and splitting.
Is this deconsolidation? Is that what this is?
Yeah.
No.
That's news to me.
No.
It's not deconsolidation.
Oh, no, this,
Wait a second.
hang on. Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into that. Secondly, by a raise of hands, how many of you guys think that government is moving way too fast on this? Majority. Okay, just a little, quick background and then we give it to Mr. Bellard. We found out about this on the 7th of July. We actually found out maps were created on the 7th of July. It was introduced on July 10th. We had no idea. Okay? No idea this was coming up. This was voted on to be introduced with no public discussion, no input from the community. Last time this was done, there was a charter commission that spent over a year and had countless meetings on it before it was even brought to the voters.
That was actual deconsolidation though.
Yeah. So anyway, so you want me to keep going?
No. Okay, and I'm going to remind the audience, the whole intent of this is for y'all to ask questions. I'm voting no, I'm against it. Y'all know that. Some of y'all support it, that's great. We're all going to vote in December. But I want this to be civil. I don't want it to be where, you know, I want you to say your comments and let's just get the next one. But I really want this to be about a fact-finding of the questions that you have at the way the charter is drawn up, that you can get the answer from the attorneys that are sitting right here. In December, whoever wins or loses, it's going to be what it's going to be. I just want to keep it civil and everyone respect everybody else. With that, we're going to begin with the cards.
It's hard to call that fact-finding if you're...
Sir, once again, this is what I don't want to get into. Fill out a card and you'll be able to talk. Why can't we all be civil? Please. Please. First person, please stand up. Derek Mesh, and you'll have any questions for the attorney. You have 3 minutes, or if you want to just state how you feel, or any questions. 3 minutes, sir. The floor is yours.
Okay. Every single municipality in the parish drains or has access to the parish around it through the parish boundaries. Would it not be simple, and would either one of the councilmen propose an amendment or possibly an alternate plan to say Lafayette, Karen Crow, Dusaw each contribute a small portion of their tax revenue to the parish fund and maintain everything like it is? Because let's face it, whenever a business goes out into the parish, a new shopping center, new manufacturing, one of the municipalities is going to grab it up and incorporate it. Therefore, the parish has no base other than farming or light industry. What do you think of that idea?
I don't think you'll get any other municipality to give up any money to the unincorporated area because they're going to keep it for themselves. That's my personal thing, and I think the city of Lafayette's the same thing. If they incorporate it, they're already paying for it. I don't think they'd want to share. That's just my gut feeling off the cuff of what I believe that you would not get Scott, any other municipality to say, hey, I'm going to give you some of this tax revenue and go help the people in the unincorporated. I don't think it would happen. We can ask their councils, we can ask our council, but that is...
The fact that they drain through there and the roads lead into there from the parish. That's what I'm saying. It wouldn't be a very big percentage. Y'all are the geniuses. Y'all would have to figure out what that percentage is, you know? But the fact is Lafayette drains through Vermilion Parish out to the Gulf. So we need to work with them. I live in Riverwood. I'm out in the parish, but I drain, you know, the city of Lafayette drains past me out toward Vermilion. So that's where I'm coming up with the logic.
No, and I think that's something to ask East Council if they would want to consider. Yes, sir, I think it's a good question. Glenn Clark.
Here.
Go ahead, sir, get the floor.
I'm in District 5. I'm in your district. I'd like to know why we're being blamed as a parish for the city's woes. I've been to several of these meetings, they all say the city is broke because of the parish. Well, I'm here to tell you, I haven't seen a Lafayette Consolidated Government truck in my district in the last 10 years. So how much money is being spent in our district? Because it's not being spent that I can see. I don't see it. Because I understand, I'd like to know how much money has been allocated in the last 10 years for our district, District 5. Because it just grew in that map. District 5 became District 2, and it's almost 20% bigger. So we get less money the bigger we get? Because right now, we're one of the bigger rural parts of this parish. District 5 and your district, sir, are the biggest rural parts. We get nothing. We have ditches that have 6-foot tall grass down Ridge Road. You can go drive there right now. Why isn't that being poisoned? Don't we have drainage problems? I mean, we have 3 schools in our district. Is that, to me, it's a problem, because I used to live there. I have 5 generations of family from that district that's lived there. And now, we don't see any work coming from the consolidated government. None. Why is that? That's my question.
The first question I'll throw to the attorneys is, any city money, is it legally to spend city money from the city of Lafayette to the unincorporated area?
He's asking you.
Are you asking us?
Yes. Can you use city?
I did not hear a legal question out of his.
Can the city of Lafayette spend city dollars in the unincorporated area? Is it legal to do so?
Wow, that's such a broad question. I mean, typically, the general rule, and Mike can correct me if I'm wrong, but the general rule is typically no. If it's city of Lafayette money that's dedicated for a particular purpose within the municipal boundaries of the city of Lafayette, then no, it would be improper to spend it beyond those boundaries.
So the first part of your question, the city is not giving any money to the unincorporated area.
I know we have a budget for the parish. We do, right? Don't we have a dedicated budget for the parish? It's not being spent in District 5.
I'll be honest with you. And look, we need to get back, I understand where you're coming from, sir. We need to get back.
Well, I'm trying to figure out a plan that betters our district.
I agree.
Our district ain't getting none.
Look, let me clarify this. The unincorporated has shrunk tremendously from what it was a long time ago. Guys, we all know the story. What used to be a very broad range unincorporated because of annexations, because of businesses being taken up, what the unincorporated provided in property taxes and sales taxes a long time ago was tremendously more. Now, it's almost non-existent. So, yes, the unincorporated right now has a problem with funding. There's no doubt about that.
What is our funding? What is the funding for the parish?
Right now,
12 million.
you have a general fund, a budget each year of $12 to $13 million for the parish, which is nothing compared to what it used to be. Okay?
Well, y'all got a big insertion of $9 million for drainage for the whole parish.
For the whole parish. That's
What
correct.
was your piece?
And how
of that?
much is that being spent in the other?
What piece of that?
Okay. This is stuff, sir, we can get back with you on this.
No, this involves the whole parish. I mean,
Yes.
you know, we can talk about the city wanting their own council, but we're not gonna be left out in the cold.
Right.
We can't be left out in the cold.
I agree. I
Because
agree.
you know what? The city drains to us. We take over a lot of, and we have 3 schools in our district. All, just people are sitting there, kids in house. So we're gonna have road conditions and drainage conditions that's gonna be deplorable.
Let me
Because
follow
of the
this,
city?
and then we're going to have to move on. I know exactly what you're saying, because the city of Lafayette drains, the majority of Lafayette's water comes through District 9, okay? So if District 9 doesn't drain, what happens to Lafayette's water? Okay? So these are issues definitely brought up, so I know what you're saying, and if we can communicate through email or by phone, then we can address some of the other points. Thank you so much.
You still have some time left if you have any other comments, sir.
I'm good.
Okay, Sarah, and I might be wrong, but Sarah Roy?
That's me. Thank you, guys. I want to respectfully say that I feel like a lot of what I hear from you guys is a lot of talks about like how this came about, and we're upset about how this came about, and we didn't get a say-so on what was happening. But when it gets down to the nuts and bolts, we have a month for you guys to look at the charter amendment and say how you feel about that division. And pardon me if I haven't, but I haven't heard anything about like the actual legitimacy of like the benefits of the parish for having its own council to focus on parish issues like the lack of funding and how we'll get money, and the city having its autonomy. Can you speak to that?
I can. First thing, I don't like that in the city, and I live in the city of Lafayette. I don't like that the city has 5 members. It takes 3 people to run the entire city.
Yeah.
I don't like that. The way it is now, it takes 6 people to put something, 6 for a supermajority to put something on the ballot. And I'm talking about taxes, I'm talking about whether it be LUS electrical rates getting raised. I do not trust 3 people to run the money that we have in our city funds. So
Can we raise it to 9 in the city?
I think 7. And I'm a conservative, so I'm telling you right now, I would grow government to 7 council members, and I'd feel more secure.
Can you propose that amendment?
Oh, I can. Yeah, I can propose any amendment. Now, obviously, the 6 guys that they want, it's going to keep it like that. But I can propose any amendment I would like. But that's my reasoning to answer your question.
Okay,
Why I'm
no, thank you for that.
That's
Still
what
have some time. Go ahead.
that's myself.
I don't want to.
That's right.
Does anybody in this room have any doubt where I stand on this proposal? You ask a tremendous question, because in all of this, the only thing we hear about is Lafayette and Lafayette autonomy. Don't get me wrong, we all live in Lafayette Parish, and Lafayette's a great place. No ifs, ands, or buts. Lafayette's prospered under this form of government. No question about it. But what we don't hear in all of this that's being proposed, how does this benefit the parish? No discussion. No clarifications. We're still broke. What does this do for Lafayette Parish as a whole? To split us into 2 councils? Of 5? It's a great question. I've gone through the charter countless times. And there are a lot of things in the charter that are being changed. Like I mentioned earlier, this is not just separating 2 councils. There's a lot more to what's happening than just separating 2 councils, folks. And look, again, I don't know everything. I'm the first one to tell you. If I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know, and then I'll try and research it and find out. But this just doesn't smell past the smell test. What's going on? Let me put it out there like that. It's moving too fast. It's coming so quick. He's telling me my time's up. Y'all better thank him for that, because I don't know.
Diana, and I'm going to say your last name wrong. Can you say it? Lennon.
Okay. I mean, I have a couple of questions, but I think they're short, and I will stay within my time. Can you give a recent example of where parish council members, they're saying this is happening because the city needs to be represented by the city. Can you give me an example of either where parish council members voted on city issues or city members voted on parish issues? And can we get 7 Lafayette members, and so we can have a majority, not just 5, have just 5? And if all the municipalities have a mayor and councils, we seem to have both. Is that because of the way the charter is written?
I'll take the first one. In my almost 11 years on the council, and I represent the majority unincorporated is in my district, I am in the city of Lafayette. I have never on this council, ever, one time, seen anyone who had a majority unincorporated area have an effect on the city of Lafayette as a no voter. The one time that anything happened, it was Councilman Andy Nakant, and I think it was raising some rates. He, who has 100% of the city, was a deciding vote. So to answer that question, no, that has never happened. I have cousins, aunts, people that live in an unincorporated area. This is a great town to live in. No one intentionally hurts anyone. And I've never seen it on the voting side of it, ever. And the second question.
Is it possible to have 7 representatives instead of 5?
That's what I would like, because I've been protected with numbers.
In addition to the mayor?
Yeah.
Let me follow up a little bit. Main reason I'm opposed to it, I'm not going to say Mr. Bellard. This does not fix the problem. This is not the solution. And also, I'm going to get my attorneys listening to clarify that we've heard at other town halls, quote, this is a first step to fixing the charter. Have you both heard that same?
I've heard that.
I've heard that.
You agree?
First step to fixing the charter.
Yes, to move forward by separating.
I've heard people say that.
Okay. So, with that said, this does not solve the problem. And the one reason being, and look, no disrespect, but if everybody wants their autonomy, how can you have a city of Lafayette with 5 new council members that would only represent 100% of the city, but have a mayor that's, quote, the parish president?
Exactly.
One of the small municipalities have their own mayor.
And
Again,
No, it's
let me explain, guys. In 1992, the new charter was passed. These are the rules that Lafayette and the consolidation went forward. Yeah, let me finish. Dealing with consolidation, hang on.
Let's go.
Yeah, on one thing I want to be very clear. Did y'all know back in 92 that when the vote for consolidation was made, and I'm going to say this and I'll be quiet, the city of Lafayette voted for it, but the parish voted against it. And then somehow, it still became consolidated. Under the current charter, it stipulates that a majority of the city and the majority of the parish has to vote in order for this to pass. That's all I gotta say.
Mary Beth Carrier?
Okay, so I'm glad that you did bring up the 5 and 5, which is an equal number, which is silly. That's the first thing that screams at me. And, you know, if we're back worshiping two gods, I mean, we have the same person leading both. Which, how do you represent yourself on one side or the other? It makes no sense. That's one thing that makes no sense. Another thing that I'm pretty frustrated with is that it seems to me that in the middle of summer, while people are still vacationing, the city and parish government is throwing a lot of stuff at us. I mean, it's a lot. And more recently, it's a whole lot. That's got me even more angry. So when this, you know, this is something we talk about. I read it in 1992. I remember. I'm old enough. When it happened, we kind of all said, well, okay, well, whatever. I mean, it's not really consolidating because every town has their own mayor stuff. So we kind of never consolidated something in the first place, and now we're gonna. People are using different terms, kind of deconsolidate something. I feel like that the steps have never been taken from the beginning, from the early 90s, probably from the late 80s when this all started. And I remember those people on the council then. And there was a lot of work and a lot of preparation that went into this. And it seems like it's just never been right. We've always kind of put a Band-Aid on it. And this just seems like a big, giant piece of gauze. It's just not a peel and stick anymore. And it just doesn't seem right. And I don't understand why there has been so much done in secret in our Lafayette City Parish Government building. Why? Why are so many things being kept at us and leaked? Some of them leaked, which is just crazy. This is like DC now all of a sudden. Leaked from a website I would never read, and thank God they did. Leaking things that are just wrong. There's so many things that have been voted on in the past that suddenly don't mean anything, and people can take the power upon themselves to decide what we're going to do, what deals we're going to make, who on the council is going to work on this, and who's not going to know that. The right hand doesn't know what the left is doing, but everybody was voted on the council. So everybody should have a seat at the table, and that's that. Try to forget you gentlemen. I mean, I'm sorry that clearly you don't play well with others. I mean, I guess that's kind of what they're saying, is that maybe you would talk too much, or you would disagree, which clearly you do. And it would be really hard on them, but now they're trying to shove in our faces. And there's a lot of people, let's face it, that are not going to do their research. Thankful people do normally vote no on things, I mean, you know, generally, so that's good. But I mean, this is just, in my opinion, which I know is just my opinion.
Thank you
It's
very
wrong from the get-go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Marleon Lamar.
Good evening, gentlemen. I just want to thank you guys for hosting tonight. Appreciate it, and I've worked with both of you, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Councilman Theriot, you said kind of one of your issues, I think, was the idea that this proposal doesn't fix the problem. And I just wanted to share with the room that I think that we can think about this problem as perhaps two separate problems. I think the parish has a funding problem and the city in general has a representation problem. There's two things that I think this ordinance does that I would really ask you guys to consider. The first is it gives the parish its own council, and I really, to this gentleman's point of view, I really do believe that with its own council, there may be more parish solutions available. You guys, as city parish council members, have a lot of issues come across your plate, and if you were able to focus solely on the parish issues and solely, or those parish council members that were elected solely on parish solutions, I think that that might be good for the future of the parish as a whole. The second is, I would really ask, while I've had the opportunity to serve, with both of you gentlemen, and you've always been very respectful of me and been very helpful to me, I think that the city has a representation issue that, I think as Americans, we all should think about, in that we don't see very many forms of democracy where someone not living in a political subdivision has authority on how that political subdivision is run. The city of Lafayette taxpayers should hopefully be the sole voice in how City of Lafayette tax dollars are spent. And this proposal fixes that. And so I would really ask for your consideration. You know, I think this is not a perfect solution, but it takes care of those two very important issues, and I think helps put Lafayette, the full parish, in a better position moving forward. So, thank you.
Just one thing I want to respond, and Carly, thank you. Carly used to be with LCG. One thing I cannot do, guys, and this is just me, I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm not going to pass something and then fix it later.
Thank you, thank you.
Something that says it's a fix that is not a fix, and then somehow in the future try to pass it.
That's what happened.
So what's your fix, William?
Hang on, you have a card? Let's do this the right way, guys. I want to do it the right way. Work with me. Just because he disagrees with some people, we don't shout out of the audience.
Okay, it's a town hall.
What? Excuse me, sir?
It's a town hall, it's not a council.
Sir,
What's
sir.
the fix?
I've asked 3 times now.
Do you leave?
You can do whatever you want. I've asked you to be nice, respectful, and there's a format to this meeting.
Okay.
Why can't you abide by the format? Is it above you, sir? Everyone else in here is listening, and they're abiding by the format. Why can't you?
Because I'm a taxpayer. I'm a taxpayer.
So you don't have to follow town line. There it is. Okay, next speaker, please.
Okay, quiet down.
Next speaker, William LaBar. And I might be saying this. Yes, sir, you have 3 minutes. You're up.
So I want to echo Carla's comments and thank you both for hosting this meeting. And I just have one question for you, if you can help me understand. So if I understand the situation as it exists today, if I live in the city of Youngsville, I pay both the city tax within Youngsville and a parish tax within the parish of Lafayette, correct? Right? I do not pay a city tax. I do not pay city taxes for the city of Lafayette. Yet I elect a representative who has the ability to vote on where city tax dollars go. So that represents to me a case where someone is not contributing at all to city tax dollars, yet electing an official who can then say what happens to my tax dollars as a taxpayer in the city of Lafayette. And that just seems fundamentally unfair to me. So my question to you is explain to me why that's fair and why I should support that moving forward.
First, you're correct in that somebody like, say, Broussard, they pay city taxes in Broussard, and they also pay parish property taxes. As an individual that represents part of the city and the unincorporated, and let me clarify this, and I want to make sure everybody hears this. I would probably say that 80 to 90% of the fighting that I've done over the last 11 years on this council has been for the residents of Lafayette, the city of Lafayette. You know why that is? Because this nice gentleman over here hit the point. There's no money in the parish. Most of the issues we deal with, some deal with the parish, but most of them deal with the city. Go find one vote where a parish councilman, like Mr. Bellard mentioned, we were to deciding vote on something that would ultimately hurt the city of Lafayette. It hasn't happened.
Can I respond to that? I'm not questioning your motives and what you voted on or whether or not you fought something against the city or for the city. All I'm asking is why you get the vote at all. Your district has over 90% of people who are not paying city taxes. Yet you get to stand there and vote on how those things go. And you may have all the best intentions, that's great, I'm fine with that, right? But fundamentally, it just seems unfair to me that those people, and nothing against those people either, right? But they just haven't contributed those dollars, so why do they get a vote in where those dollars go? And I don't hear yet an answer why it's fair. I hear you say you haven't fought against it, but I don't understand why it's fair.
It might not be fair in your eyes, and that's okay. And that's part of what we're here for. It's fair because that's the charter and the government we have in place. So in December, if you disagree with it, you get as much people as you can, and if you win, then it's changed. But the reason it's that way is because it's voted on already. The government is formed that way.
So we have something that's in place.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We have something in place that needs to be fixed, right? And I've yet to hear what the fix is. And right now, there's something on the table that at least fix a fundamental structural inequality in our government, something that is fundamentally un-American. And so I want to hear what the fix is. So I guess you think it's fair, right? Like I can come in and tell you how you spend your money, just like they are coming in and telling me how to spend my money. I just don't get that. And so I will vote yes to support if it goes on the ballot, but I have yet to hear anything to say why it's fair or what the fix is if you don't support us.
Thank you. Next speaker, Stuart Brooke.
For me, supporting this measure to have separate councils is a matter of basic civics. In 1776, a group of people said, we don't want people who live outside of our colonies to tell us how to spend our tax dollars and how to govern. And I think we have exactly the same right as citizens of the city of Lafayette with respect to people in the parish. I respect the job that y'all have done over the past 10, 11 years. I don't think anybody could suggest that you have done things to hurt the city of Lafayette or to benefit the parish at the city's expense. But, I mean, Councilman Theriot, you're from outside of the city, and you said that the overwhelming majority of your job is dealing with city issues. To me, that highlights why this system is fundamentally flawed. There's more than enough problems in the parish to support a parish council which is dedicated to those problems. Another issue is the fact that on Tuesday, we're going to be voting on a parking garage being sold from the city to the parish, where the same parish city parish. It doesn't matter which way it's going, except factually, but. And people are acting on both sides of the same issue. They're sitting in a chair and saying, I'm a city councilman and I'm selling this to the parish, and I'm a parish councilman and I'm accepting this on behalf of the city. And I don't think there's anything wrong with what's going on tomorrow. It just highlights the idea that there's a definite conflict. If you were an attorney, you're not still on both sides of the same issue at the same time, voting on the same thing. And I think that principle is a wise one. It's guided us so far pretty well. So, and I guess I'd end with a question. That would be, I've heard that the proposal to have separate councils doesn't fix the problem with funding in the parish. I totally agree, it doesn't. It doesn't have anything to do with that. But does having separate councils in any way have a negative effect on the parish? Is it going to hurt the budget of the parish? Is it going to cause some problem in the parish? I would like to know your opinion on it.
Okay. First and foremost, like I mentioned earlier, will it have a negative effect? At this point, we don't know. It will cost more. That's an absolute. Make no mistake about it. Let's think of it this way. Right now, we have city-parish government. What they're proposing, that what we're doing, Mr. Escott, Mr. Avery, listen on this. What they're proposing doing now in the new charter is going from one government to 3. City parish consolidated government.
That guy said no.
That's just him. City parish, it would be city government, parish government, and then city parish government. Is that correct? It's not. That's what the charter stipulates. The charter says that you have a city government, a parish government, and then there's city parish government. That's why we got you here. Elaborate. How was that?
Well, let me see. I summarize this. Right now, we have, sure. Right now, under the current charter, we have the governmental functions of the city of Lafayette consolidated with the governmental functions of the parish of Lafayette. And that form of government is called the Lafayette Consolidated Government, or formerly Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government. So it also, under the current charter, maintains that the city of Lafayette retains its entity, and the parish of Lafayette does as well. So let me illustrate it maybe this way. Under the current charter, let me ask a series of questions that might illustrate rather than trying to explain it. under the current charter and under the current city parish council, can the council pass a city tax or propose a city tax to the voters?
Under the current?
Under the current charter.
Yes.
Okay. Can the current city parish council propose a parish tax to the voters?
Yes.
Can the city parish council propose either a tax or the incurring of a debt on behalf of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government?
Yes.
There's your three. It's already in the current charter, and there is no change in the revised charter. All the revisions due to the current charter is clarify that any solely city issue is within the legislative power of only the city council. Only the legislative power of the parish is vested in the parish council. Joint, dual legislative powers to manage the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government, which exists now in the city parish council and requires 5 votes to pass, is now jointly vested in the city council and the parish council, and actually requires 6 votes because you need 3 from the 5 and 3 from the 5. So that's the structure. It doesn't change or expand the overall authority that you currently have. It simply sort of cuts the pie slightly different. The pie is still the same, and the 2 councils deal with their own business, and you jointly deal with the joint business. That's how it's supposed to work.
Okay, let's move on.
Thank you, Mr.
If we have any additional questions on that, I can give it.
Tracy, and I don't know if that's F-A-B-R-E? Yes, ma'am, you're up.
All the smaller municipalities within the Lafayette Parish have their own.
I'm sorry, can you speak up?
All the other municipalities within the parish have their own city council and mayor. I don't understand why it would be harmful for Lafayette to have the same thing. It seems like equal representation.
I agree with you, but this doesn't solve it.
Well, it's
What this does is you will have somebody in Lafayette who is what's called a mayor-president. They're not going to be just a mayor. So they're still going to oversee the parish. So,
the council members.
okay, well, by separating it, and look, I heard what the attorney said there, and I'm still a little more confused on that, and he and I'll talk. But, because that really doesn't solve anything from hearing what he said. It doesn't change anything. It basically, we're staying the same.
Well, it absolutely changes. Let me clarify.
Do you have any, wait,
Hang on a second, Scott.
you still have the floor.
Fire away.
So why wouldn't you want this to go on the ballot in December and let the voters decide?
I can tell you right now, because it's come too fast.
Right.
My God. Anytime somebody tries to rush something through, no matter what it is, whether it's your kids in high school trying to say, Mom, Dad, I got to get out and roll real fast and I give you an explanation, something is not right. Something hasn't been cleared. On this, I'm not saying not. It's just the people of Lafayette, city and parish, have not had an opportunity to voice their opinion. These town halls are nice.
For government to move a little faster.
I'm sorry?
You're requesting for government to move faster. There's no answer to that one.
Yeah, that's
I like that one.
yeah, it's moving too fast. All right, what's next?
Anything else? No, you still have some time. You're good.
Can we get the response from the lawyer? Yeah, can we get the clarification?
Sure.
You said there were changes. Fire away.
Councilman, you said that there's no change. Obviously, I thought my description was clear, but the change that is occurring is when we talked about the 3 things. The current council can do something for LCG, the current council can do something for the city of Lafayette, and the current council can do something for the parish. That's the 3. The change is now that's not vested in one council. one council, the city, now can do something for the city and the city alone, and the parish can't do anything about it. And vice versa. The parish council can now do something and is solely responsible for the parish. That's the second thing. If they want to do something for what's shared, they both have to agree, right? So that's, yes, it's the same, but it's changed in structure, because you have two councils now as opposed to one.
So you have 5 and 5, 3 from each guy to agree to make it go forward.
Which is actually one more vote than you currently need to make something go forward, right?
Next up,
The same person.
Brent Logan.
I live in Nanette's Cooks District. I went to her meeting, and I guess where I would start is that, you know, we were talking about democracy earlier. Well, democracy is never perfect. In fact, it says in the Declaration, in order to form a more perfect union. Yeah, we're trying, but I'll bring back the words of Russell Long when he said, taxes never work like that. It always, don't tax him, don't tax me, tax that man over there behind the tree. And everybody debates and fights over taxes. It's never going to be perfect, the system that comes out, even if we go through with this or we don't. The things that bother me are, at Nanette's meeting, everybody said this is not deconsolidation. Well, it looks like it, it feels like it, it smells like it. So, therefore, if that's what it is, you call it what it is. I looked up some other stuff. You know, at times, I haven't always agreed with the way the votes go in the city parish, but hey, you know, my fear is that you start having the city and then you have all these controversies. You know, I pay city tax and I pay parish tax. I live in the city. And I think everybody does. I'm sure if they live in Youngsville, they pay a Youngsville tax and a parish tax. Well, it's how that money is spent. I like the system we have. It's not perfect, but it's better than, I think, the alternative they're trying to present here. Yes. I did go look at other city parish governments in the state, and what I find, the only one I see that kind of works reasonably, and of course you're going to laugh, is Jefferson. But what Jefferson has is 2 at-large representatives, councilmen, represented by the whole, elected by the whole parish. So we don't end up with these vote issues we're talking about where, oh, these guys are going to slap you with something, or these guys over here are going to slap you with something. Look, if I got to pay my tax where I live, then I pay my tax. At least these guys decided, and I like this organization. I don't want to get one where suddenly somebody has divided up the city like a pie and basically making me pay the things I don't agree with. I think the representation we have is fine. I call it deconsolidation, call it what you like. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Josh Carlson. Carlson?
Well, I thank Mr. Bro for his civics lesson, and I agree with Mr. and Mrs. LeVar about you should have representation as close to the people as possible. I agree with that 100%. My concern about this is exactly what we started off this meeting by saying, that it's possible and very likely to have a city council made up entirely of city residents and a parish council entirely made up by city residents, and therefore the parish loses its vote, has no voice. And so I went to Nanette's meeting. I'm in her district, but I wanted to hear from you guys who opposed the initial vote. And I brought up my concerns with her, and she said, I said, you know, I heard from Bruce Hong and Jay Castile about how the council is a mess. It's crazy. They can't get anything done. I heard about how the parish is broke. And then for 20 minutes, and then we heard for 5 minutes why we need to move along with this vote. And I brought up the fact that this doesn't solve any of those problems. And I think everybody's made that point. Why not solve the problems that we all agree on, which is Lafayette, the city, does not have representation. We could solve that by redistricting so that we don't have some with 0% in the city, or I'm sorry, 100% city voters. And let's try to make it as 50-50 as much as possible. That way, everyone on the council would both represent equally city and parish voters. It doesn't fix funding issues for the parish. The parish is still going to be broke at the end of the day. And I keep hearing, where are these two guys, because it always comes up like, it's mentioned but not really mentioned, where these two guys, because they're more fiscally conservative, have stopped the city of Lafayette from spending money how they want to, is really what people have said, but not said. And nobody can really give me an example of how the parish is spending the city's money. Now, I agree, the city should have a right to vote on its own money, but a lot of the money is dedicated to certain things, and we don't have a lot of flexibility. I'm one of those voters that live in the parish and have LUS, so shouldn't I have someone who can both represent city needs and parish needs? These are just questions and concerns that I have. I would like to see a change, but something that actually makes more sense, that makes logical sense, and not just trying to rush something through that doesn't really seem to address any of these issues at all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ross Cottrell?
Cottrell.
Sorry, sir.
So I'm going to be quick. I just want to say I do agree with the separate representation. I do think that is a good thing to have parish people focus on parish and city people focus on city. What I would kind of like to hear, I think there's a lot going on with the clarification from the lawyer and the actual one more vote now that you need to move things across. Like, does that sway you at all? And from both of you, what would be your fix for the representation issue? Like, how would you fix that, or is that not a problem for you?
For me, yes, the 5 members of the city only, allowing 3 people to dictate how the city runs bothers me. I feel stronger with more numbers. I don't trust government. I'm a elected governmental official. If they have more people with different minds, that's what this council is all made about. You can be conservative, you can be a Democrat, you can be an independent, you can be a liberal, but we have a big piece of the pie here. So it's not just certain people running government. All you got to go convince is 3 people to run your city. That's where I disconnect. Personally. That's just my personal preference. That's no one in my district saying, hey, Mr. Bellard, that's me personally telling you what that is my disconnect with this particular point. Mr. Theriot, if you'd like to.
As for the 6 votes, I don't think it would sway. It still doesn't. Again, this is still moving too fast. It doesn't fix the problems. You still have the same issues with the parish. I could go on and on about this. It's just that you still have the possibility that you could still have the 5 in the city that represent the city of Lafayette. It's still possible that you could have 5 from the city represent the parish. Where have you gained anything from that point?
So if you change that and you don't allow people within the city to represent the parish, that's fine. But I'm asking, what is your, so is that your fix? What would be your fix for the
my fix,
representation?
I think others have heard me, and I'm going to be very quick on it, is that my fix is that on this, and I proposed this at 2 council meetings. Instead of doing this, what we need to do, because the unincorporated is in such bad and dire shape right now, what we need to do is take the map, guys. Basically, this is the parish. City of Lafayette, Youngsville, Broussard, Carrico, Scott, Dussault. Everything that is unincorporated only, that hasn't been annexed. Areas of influence, and it can be done. I've already checked by state legislation. Take the areas that haven't been annexed and give every city an area of influence, which means every city would take in a piece of the unincorporated. Everybody would become autonomous, including Lafayette, because Lafayette would have its piece of whatever out the unincorporated. It would have its own council, its own mayors, and we wouldn't have no unincorporated anymore. Therefore, you wouldn't have a parish council because you wouldn't need it. You would save tons of money, and it would fix the issues with the unincorporated. Of course, and people say, well, you can't provide services to them. You can also put in a caveat, state legislation that says, this area of influence will belong to you, certain municipality, but will provide services based on the funding resources available in order to provide it to you. They can't expect you to be at the very end of the parish and get into a municipality and expect them to come in next week and provide you all utilities. No, can't do it. But that is my fix. Do away with the unincorporated, and that way all you would need would be a parish manager and maybe some clerks, and that would be all you would need to take care of the parish issues, dealing with coroners, yeah, and things like that. So that's my fix.
Next up, Michael Lunsford.
Y'all have actually answered a lot of the questions I had, but there was one that kind of stuck out at me in the group.
as I sat here and listened, and my big question tonight is, you guys heard about this on July the 7th for the first time, and it was put up July 10th. My question was to the counselors is, when was the first time you guys heard about this?
That's a good question.
3rd of May.
He said the 3rd of May.
I believe, if memory serves, it was around the 3rd of May.
Wow.
We worked constantly. Stay here. I'm not saying it's flawed that anything, you know. But it was about 45 days we turned this over.
It's a long time to keep us here. The other thing that kind of jumped out at me, someone in the back mentioned that an attorney representing both sides is, I don't know, fundamentally unfair or it's a conflict of interest. So my question is, does this charter change fix that? Are we still going to have the same legal department, or are we going to have two separate legal departments?
I believe under the proposed charter, the legal department, along with all the other departments, remain intact.
So we didn't hear that.
Okay, hang on. Say that again, Mr. Escott.
He asked what would happen to the legal department under the proposed charter amendments. And the legal department, along with it's every department, right, Mike? Yeah, every department, utilities, community development, all of those departments remain intact. And we don't create duplicate departments.
So the conflict remains in place. You don't fix the conflict of interest that someone mentioned earlier. That's not.
Well, I don't know what conflict you're talking about. Stewart's referring to some conflict, and he's talking about that lawyers have. He's talking about the Code of Professional Responsibility. I don't have a conflict as the current representative, city parish attorney. And if there is a conflict that arises, I know what my rules are as a licensed attorney in Louisiana of what I have to do. I have to recuse myself and get two separate lawyers. That has not occurred in any issues I've dealt with. As far as the governmental employees, there's governmental ethics, but that doesn't involve conflict. Their employer, they have the same employer. So I'm not sure exactly, what you may be talking about, but the current charter doesn't change in that respect in this charter proposal. Right. We weren't asked to change that. We didn't. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Bellard.
Thank you, sir.
I apologize, but you did say, for example, all the other things the same, including LUS.
Ma'am. No, utilities.
Oh, okay.
Let's stay civil. Miss Patty Porter, you're up.
There's no two. What I'm saying is there's no two.
I understand, but you don't understand.
Miss Patty Porter.
Okay, I think everyone in this room seems to be a bit concerned about what's going on behind closed doors, and these things just pop up and everybody's surprised on the council, in the city. And I would like to know when the demographer was hired, and I heard it was Mike Hefner. And doesn't that take a vote of the council to engage services like that?
Who are you directing that to, the attorneys?
I'm sorry.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Myself, nor Mike Hebert were involved in any way with the demographer. So whether he was hired, when that occurred, who hired him, I was personally not involved, and neither was Mike Hebert. So I can't answer that question.
FCG did not hire Mike Hefner. That's true. We did not vote.
As far as I know, they did.
That's a fact. We did. Nobody
voted or who did.
Let's clarify this. Normal protocol is that the council would have to have an ordinance before them or a resolution that would dictate what demographer would be used, what parameters and guidelines they would be tasked with doing, and how much they would be paid to do it. That is normal protocol. That was not done here. So basically,
Next question, ma'am. You still have the floor?
Okay, I'm sure he didn't do it for free, so he'll have to be paid. So in other words, none of you know what he has agreed to do this for.
No, ma'am.
Okay. And also, I wanted to ask a question about this disconnect on the city council. Do you two attorneys have any feeling about this not being correctly handled properly, with only part of the city council initiating these types of giant moves with the city without the whole council being involved? That's the point of having a whole council. They're supposed to be involved in everything like this that goes on. And I think a lot of people in the room have a problem with this going on behind doors. And then at the last town hall meeting last week here, between Liz Webb, Abear, and Bruce Comp, they said they didn't know anything about LUS being up for sale, and that's been going on a year. There's just, it's a pattern here where things are going on behind the city's back, the taxpayers, where we should be involved first, not last. And this is what's a pattern that's been developing.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll briefly just let them get out the hole. When I have conversations with legal, it's just between us. Besides the fact of my disappointment of my fellow colleagues not allowing me a chance to have any input, I was very unprofessional. I spoke that at the council meeting. It's no secret. I told them I haven't done that to any of them, and one of them apologized. But as far as legal is concerned, I can go to Mr. Abear or Mr. Escott and say, hey, I want to do this, we'll draw this ordinance up. They don't have to tell anyone. So that's, to answer that question, they don't have to.
One quick question. It was brought up last week also.
Ms. Patty, I have to go to the next one. The time's up. Thank you. Amy, and I'm going to say this name wrong, Schuen? Amy, S-C-H-O-E-N. Nope, I'll go to the next one. Mark DeCluitt.
Thanks.
You have the floor.
Yeah, I'm in Liz's district, by the way. Thanks for hosting the town hall. I appreciate the opportunity to just have this debate. Something that keeps getting brought up, and I've been to a couple of these, is that we're moving too quickly, right? And for me, I'm a city resident. I don't think we can move quick enough. I feel in Lafayette Parish that I'm a second-class citizen, right? Because I have parish voters telling me where my tax dollars go, and I just don't think that's right. I won't go into that anymore because it's been harped on all night, but I do, right? And how slow do you guys want to go? I mean, we have a month to talk about this before you can make a decision. And you are all educated people. Y'all can read the charter, make a decision one way or the other. And then we have 6 months, 5 months to look at it, debate it, have a conversation. I think that's plenty enough time. To your point, I think that there's always going to be a problem with changes moving forward, right? Looking at the charter fixes, you mentioned a couple of them that you're concerned about, but it gives us the opportunity to move forward and progress. And I don't see how making changes that gives Lafayette our own voice over where our tax dollars goes is a bad move. I kind of echo Carly's sentiments in that it gives us better optics by which we can fix the parish problems. One thing I'll point out just for optics' sake, I've been to a couple of these town hall meetings, and this is the first one that started out with just speaking down about the charter. We didn't get an objective view as to what's being presented. Fortunately I've been to some, and I saw objective viewpoints on what's being put out there, and I was able to make my own opinion. That's what I thought. There are probably people in this room right now who hasn't been educated on that, and I don't think we gave them the opportunity to be educated. We just all jumped into it. Our side with our side, their side with their side. It's just FYI, I think that would have been, and hopefully when this does pass, if we have more town halls, we're given that opportunity. Anyway, thanks for the time.
Very good point. Thank you, sir. Mr. Ross Little Jr., you have the floor. You left? Ross Little Jr.?
He's right here.
Oh.
Okay, what I see in America today is a problem of higher taxes. In my 60-plus years in Louisiana, when I was a boy, sales taxes were about 4%. Now, they're 8%, in many cities 10%, in some cities 12 and 13%. Our taxes are higher, our government has gotten bigger. In the beginning of our country, the basic unit of government was the county. The parish was the basic unit of government. Today, in America, the cities predominate. The cities have more voice, and the people are moving out of the small towns. I moved from Franklin, Louisiana, to here. Go to Franklin today. It's practically deserted. There was, in that day, in my day when I was a boy, there was one parish banking. I was a banker. You could not branch outside of your parish. Parishes were significant form of government. They're not anymore. Now, regarding fairness, by the way, I'm opposed to this proposal. Regarding fairness, there's never perfect fairness. Never. The United States Senate indicates we don't have perfect fairness. Every state has 2 votes in the U.S. Senate. But some states have small population, other states have large. That was the compromise. So our government is a form of compromise. Today, I believe we have a reasonable compromise in the Lafayette government. I believe the proposal would make things worse. It would give more power to the city. In our generation, the cities are the problem. Okay, and 2 key problems with this proposal have been pointed out, and they're pretty important. They're fundamental, basic problems. 3 votes on the city council, the city votes. I'm a resident, by the way, of the city of Lafayette and the parish of Lafayette. This is my district where we're in right now, which is not far from here, and I have a representative on both the city, I have a city parish representative. But with this new charter, there's a possibility, isn't it, that all of the members of the parish council could be City of Lafayette residents. That is fundamentally unfair. So I'm going to be opposed to this, and I urge y'all to consider voting no when you go to the polls. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I want to thank you also for hosting this town hall, because I do feel like it does present a different side than we've heard before. And I would like to say that I'm against this proposal for the reason that I don't agree with 5 members council on the city and the parish, and that a 3-member vote would be a majority. I don't think that that works. I feel, as a literature person, literature major, that I'm witnessing a bit of the theater of the absurd. We're being told one thing and seeing another. We're being told that this is not being rushed, but it is being rushed, because the public is not all aware of it. There are some in this room with a very active group of people, but a lot of people have not even heard of it. So I believe that there should be more town halls, and that there should be more input from the public, and there should be more knowledge. I also, I just feel that it's being rushed, and it was done behind closed doors. The document is on our website, LA Can, and it's 75 pages long of legal terminology, which is very difficult to understand. And I agree with this young woman here. She said this is being presented in the summer. It was difficult for me to go to the town hall that was hosted the other night by my representative, Nanette Cook, because I had family in town. So here we are, we have town halls, what, 5, 7, within a 2-week period during a major vacation time, and it's going to be put on the ballot this, what, August 7th, 9th? Well, the city council is going to vote to move it forward, when most of the public doesn't even know that it exists. I mean, this woman told me she had 40 people in her house the other night, and very few of them even knew that it existed. This affects all of us, and it is really the due diligence of our government and our representatives, whoever they are, to inform the citizens of this city and this parish, and give us time to look at it, understand it, and have a final document before it moves forward.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker is Jim Carlin.
I spoke last Monday at this. I heard all the things. And one of the things that I said last week, and I'll say it again, we're moving too fast.
Yes.
it was dropped on us. Bruce Kant stood here when I made that comment and told me we've been working on this since 2011. And I said that for a reason. And I looked at him and I said, I only heard about this 3 days before the council meeting. And he said, no, we've been working on this since 2011. And I basically, it's offensive to me for someone to tell me, I've been here 35 years. I moved here in 1983. I saw the charter and I saw all the stuff. The thing that gets me is, I hear a common statement in here tonight. We're broke. And I will tell you what irritates me the most about that statement is driving down Ambassador Caffrey and seeing all the multi-million-dollar businesses sitting in that shopping center that are not paying one dime towards property tax. That's what we gotta fix. Is that kind of drawing businesses in here? They're gonna come anyhow. But you come to me, the taxpayer, and you want more money. And I said this at the council meeting, and I'm gonna say it again. This doesn't fix anything. I do a 2-hour TV show. I spent an hour and 25 minutes of that show on Wednesday with a sequence, including LUS and being sold. And I looked at the sequence of events, and I'm going, good God, May 9th or April 9th, they signed a document, non-binding, and on April 10th, Huval says he's going to retire. Now he retires before the 31st.
Point of order, this is not about the events that we're talking about tonight.
3 minutes. Yeah.
But okay, I'm just trying to make a point of the fact that we got this, we have it now. I've been in the charter. I was told at that town hall they were only changing things for the separation of the parish and the city. But that's not true. There were changes in there for the utilities, which I understand have been pulled, and stuff like that. This doesn't fix the problem, and we do need more time. It's not how fast we go and get involved in this. And the last thing I have to say is, the problem with me, the biggest problem I have is, we can't draw that chart until 2020.
Thank you, sir.
One quick thing that he mentioned about another change to the charter, and it's very important, real quick, just want to say, professional services. Professional services right now have 5 members on it. That deals with contracts and the approval of contracts. The parish council right now has 3 members and the administration has 2. Under the new charter, if I'm not mistaken, guys, verified, professional services will have 3 members. The administration, public works, and a director of utilities will be 3, and the council will have 2. So there's going to be a shift in who approves contracts.
Can you repeat that?
The administration is basically going to have 3 votes, and the council will have 2. So we're losing power. The council will no longer be in a majority when it comes to contracts on professional services. So, hang on. So anyway.
Guys, while you're looking at that, we'll take the next person, and we'll come back to that. Helen Granger.
Thank you, gentlemen, for hosting this informative meeting. I just want to say that at this time, I'm like Joyce and the rest of you. I'm against it. It has been rushed. I have a lot of distress when I think of all of the separate areas that have not been addressed and how this separation is going to affect them. To educate the public, it would be great if the council put together a document piece by piece by piece, agency by agency by agency, on how this separation would affect them. I live in an unincorporated area of Lafayette. I live on property that's been in my family since a presidential land grant, thank you, Rutherford B. Hayes. I live on a piece of property that's got a marker in the pasture that says it's the highest point above sea level between here and Delcom. I live on a piece of property that when Youngsville flooded in 1928, 8 feet underwater, we were high and dry. And I live on a piece of property that flooded Friday morning, August 2016. We didn't flood, gentlemen, because we had a lot of rain. We flooded because my ditches and my drainage has not been cleared and is still not cleared. What are we going to do if I couldn't get services before the flood? It's not been addressed since the flood, and we're going to change how we're ruling, and I'm going to be left without representation, especially the way Mr. Theriot was saying it's going to play out, that it could be 5 of the same people sitting on each of the councils. That's not representation of all people. Anyway, that's all I want to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, we still have a lot of court left, so I'm trying to go a little faster. It just has Janae. I don't have a last name. Is there a Janae? J-A-N-E-N-E.
Janine. Janine DeCluitt. I'm on Roselawn, so Ms. Hebert is my representative. I want to thank you both for being here at this meeting. I think also it's been pretty informative. I've been a mother of 6. I've been on soccer fields a lot my whole life. I've really not made very many of these meetings, but I would have to concur with my oldest son, Mark, that coming into this meeting and hearing for the first time that the majority is against something that I am for made me feel like I wanted to go on the back wall. I felt isolated. And this is one of my first meetings, so I do agree with Mark that I think we need to be more fair and open-minded when we're starting these meetings and not be very judgmental about a policy or whatever this is that we're going to call it is being put on the table. The 2 things that I'd like to talk about, most of the things that I want to talk about have been discussed by Carly and Will and a few others in the back of the room. And I just want to thank you all for your ability to get your point across clearly and with great energy, because I think that's the way Lafayette should move forward. Mother of 6, we don't move slow. We don't move slow. We're articulate, we have a plan, we execute the plan, and we move forward. So some of the things that I'd like to talk about are the City of Lafayette taxpayers deserve the right for self-government. Any amendment to the city-parish charter has to be passed parish-wide. Why is it fair that City of Lafayette residents have to ask permission from the parish as a whole? That does not make sense to me either. Shouldn't the vote to set up a parish council be only decided by city taxpayers? Parish taxpayers deserve solutions, like the gentleman said at the beginning of the meeting, who's still standing in the back. The current setup allows politicians to keep kicking the can down the road. We are all parish taxpayers. We consolidated in the first place because the parish was going broke. It has not worked, and the parish is still broke. There are still separate city taxes and parish taxes. The way that we share the cost of consolidation, what proportion is paid by city taxes as opposed to parish taxes. The Public Works Department, Planning Department, Administration, Council Office, Mayor's, President's Office are all examples of shared services. The city and parish divvy up the expenses, if I understand that correctly. The Police Department, the Fire Department are examples of functions paid for at 100% by city taxes. Even though City of Lafayette taxpayers make up only 1/2 of the parish population, city taxes are responsible for 80% of the shared cost of consolidation. 78% of the mayor president's salary, for example, I believe is paid for by the City of Lafayette. Those are the areas that I want just to kind of make that declaration saying. If anybody wants to comment on that, you're welcome to do so.
Thank you for coming, and I appreciate you coming, and this is one of the things I like. This lady, with some of the stuff I disagree with, you can tell it's in her heart. Not an ugly tone, perfect tone. Thank you for coming. Next speaker, Barbara Kincanon. I apologize.
I'm also, and Liz Abear's district. I don't often go to the meetings, but I watch it on AOC. I read a lot of people saying, what's the rush? People don't know what's going on. We all know probably 3/4 don't care. They don't. They're UL students, they're young, whatever, it goes, okay. I'm not getting represented by the city parish council because when there's an issue that I feel like I want my voice heard, I email all of you. I've heard from the same 3 for the past 10 years. And they're not either one of you, ever. Including about tomorrow's meeting, which is very important, and I can't attend. Parish-wide, the other day was in the news, Ildacon cooling, breaking ground. I think we have pulled together, we've seen the articles, if you read the papers and all. The parishes are finally understanding, of course, if the city drains, it goes to Karen Crow or Scott or wherever. Even Vermilion Parish is coming in. So drainage is going to be addressed. I think the problem is, and I don't know because no one could answer my question unless I go down to clerk of court. I know what I'm paying in property tax percentage, but I don't know what Scott is, Karen Crow, the other municipalities. I don't know if y'all are paying your fair share. I don't know. I'm not saying that you're not. But it is being addressed parish-wide, which is great. But maybe their property taxes have to be raised, and not just the city of Lafayette property owners. I don't appreciate not being addressed when I contact you, because you do represent me also. I don't feel like we got the answer. Who paid for the map?
There was nobody knows.
Why don't y'all know?
Good question.
Secret.
The attorneys don't know. That is my legal representation. These two.
Who brought them into whatever room the first time?
I did not.
Do y'all know?
All I can say is what I heard at the public meeting.
Which public
The
meeting?
last council meeting, which was July 10th.
July 10th.
July 10th meeting, I heard sorry, July 10th council meeting, I heard Councilman Castillo indicate that he had a demographer donate his time. I'm just, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you what I heard, that he had a demographer donate his services to this point to do whatever work they were doing with the maps. Like I said, I was personally not involved in that, nor was the legal department, so I can only tell you what I heard at a public meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, Matt DeCluitt.
Very brief, and it's kind of echoing Mark and my mom. I'm in favor of the charter amendment, and the problem with the current makeup of the city parish council, there are people who have representation on city issues who don't pay city taxes, and representation without taxation seems very un-American, and in my opinion doesn't make very much sense. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming. Next speaker, Donna Elche.
A lot of my questions have been answered. I live in the district. I think this all happened too fast. You gentlemen said you first heard about this May 3rd. When did you first hear about it?
On the radio 2 days before the council.
That's my point. I think if what's his name, Narcan had been at the city council meeting on July the 9th, would we even be here tonight having this meeting? Because it would have passed, would it not? There would have been six votes had he been there, and there wouldn't be any reason for the council members to be having these town hall meetings, because it would already be on the ballot.
No, no.
And why does it have to be on the ballot so quickly? Why can't we have, I went to the hairdresser last week, I went and got my nails done last week, I was at the doctor's office today. Nobody that I've talked to knows anything about it. I had over 40 people at my house the other night, some of my neighbors and different people in my area. Nobody even knew what this was about, that it was going on. We need, and I realize, something needs to be done. It needs to be fixed, but we need time to figure out, you're saying this isn't going to fix it. And we all recognize it needs to be fixed. So why vote on something that's not going to fix it? Why, if you guys worked so hard from May 3rd till July 9th to put this together, obviously you need more time because none of us understand it. We need some more time I mean, we all agree something needs to be done, but this isn't the answer. So if we're going to fix it, why can't we fix it correctly? That's what I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, Jeremiah Sutton.
First of all, to correct one thing. I went to 2 of these other meetings, and I disagree, ma'am, that the other presentations were objective. They weren't. They were presented by the people that actually wrote the rules, and it was definitely biased towards in favor of it. This is the first one that I feel is somewhat objective. And now I live in the city, and so I have a few questions. Now, also, I'd like to say that this gentleman mentioned the multi-million-dollar businesses that are in the area off of College Saloon that pay no taxes to the city of the parish, and those were voted on by the people, by the council members in the city. These 2 guys voted against it.
Mr. Supple, charter amendments, though.
Huh?
Let's stick on the charter amendment, please.
Okay, well, I'm going to, I think it all wraps in.
Okay, we'll wrap it in for him.
And I'm going to also preempt someone that said that the LUS does not tie into this, because I think it does. I'm not certain that it doesn't. And all of a sudden, we're talking about selling a $600 million asset that I understand is owned by the city. I know another gentleman here who lives out in the unincorporated areas uses LUS services. So he is a customer of LUS, yet it's owned by the city. The city's going to receive $500 million in assets. Who decides that? Do you guys decide on that? I mean, how does this structure? I'm trying to put the 2 together. I think they're related. How does this structure impact that transaction?
It does.
And I'd ask Mr. Escott, does that impact the charter? What would be the difference, I guess is what he's asking, with this new charter?
Right.
With the sale of LUS? That's your question?
Lease, sale, or management of it?
Well, one.
Got 43 seconds, so
Yeah,
quick
one
shoot something.
is, can the sale take place without a vote? And if there's a vote, who votes? Is it the city or is it the parish? And then does that change with this deconsolidation?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So under the current charter of LPUA, which is the Lafayette Public Utility Authority, which is made up of all of the council members whose districts have 60% or more residents in the city of Lafayette, okay? And that results in 5 council members currently that are on the LPUA. Under the current charter, the LPUA, those 5 council members that represent primarily the city of Lafayette, is, under the current charter, is the governing authority for the utilities, okay? So they're the sort of like the council for the utilities department. They, under the current charter, cannot sell, lease, etc., utilities department, or the utilities, we'll just call it the utility system, because that's what the charter calls it, the current charter, without going to a vote of the people, okay?
And who would be?
The city of Lafayette people, okay? This is a city-owned asset, right? That's the current charter. Now, the change,
Yet it's used outside of the city.
well, the residents outside the city of Lafayette, and I may defer to Mike because he does more work with LUS than I do, but my understanding is that out-of-city residents who have LUS service that is approved by resolution that is put forth before the LPUA, they have to vote on it and grant that they extend that service, pay a different rate, a higher rate, than do the city of Lafayette residents. They pay what's called an out-of-city rate. So yes, they get the service, but they pay a premium on top of what you would pay. Now, right or wrong, or we agree or disagree, I don't know. But
Go to the second part of the charter.
So the change in the current proposed charter would be that the LPUA, right, that is the governing authority now, is no longer necessary, and it's now the city council, because the city council takes the LPUA's place. It's 5 city council members, right? They cannot lease, dispose, sell, they can't do anything with the utility system any more than LPUA could. They have to go to a vote of the people of the city of Lafayette. It's just, it's LPUA no longer needed because there's no longer one council, right? So when you go to the city council, when you go to the parish council, the city council, which is now a utility, city-owned asset, they're now, quote, the LPUA for the utilities.
So you're saying these two guys wouldn't really have a vote on it anyway?
Currently, they do.
All right, well, that's not correct.
On some things, because if you ask Mr. Theriot, we've had this discussion in the past. Yeah, there are some things in the charter that there's some overlap, where Mr. Theriot, Mr. Bellard, the entire 9 council members actually get to vote on an issue that affects the utility system. Now,
The sale.
that would, no, that the LPUA would bring that to the voters.
Yeah. It would be city only. But thank you. I'm gonna try to move along. Anita Begno.
Hi, thanks for having us here tonight. I appreciate it. I'm originally from Church Point, and I chose to move to Lafayette about 10 years ago. I've been living here for about a decade. I didn't choose to move to Broussard, Youngsville, Dussault, Scott, or Karen Crow. I chose to move to Lafayette. And I've watched a lot of people around me, some in this room, have children, and I know that it kind of changes your perspective on life and how you want to live your life when you have a child. And so I've been thinking about people thinking differently, and it's making me think a little bit differently. And I know for me, as a citizen of Lafayette, I live in District 6, so I'm in the only holy city district. I want a council to make decisions for the future of Lafayette. Ones that hopefully align with my values and the life decisions I want to make and my vision for the community, which is why people move into communities and choose to live there in my estimation. And my friend left here who was sitting here earlier, but I would respectfully disagree that the parish council is not for unincorporated residents. It is for parish residents, and I am both. I wouldn't say this issue is rushed, which I heard often tonight. This issue, we've talked about a lot of different issues that we're reading about in the news, but this issue about separating councils has not been done in the dark. In fact, we're all here in the same room talking about it, and there were 4 meetings last week where it was talked about as well that I was unable to attend, so I appreciate you hosting me at this one tonight. And there were 2 council meetings, and this is how the system works. And so I've heard a lot of people say they don't know anything about this, and you can attend council meetings, you can watch them live on AOC, you can rewatch them later. And so, I just want to make it clear that this, in my estimation, has not been done in the dark. There's been a lot of conversation about it, and I'm excited to see so many people here talking about it tonight. Also, the timing of this issue and the issue itself are 2 separate things, and it feels like we're mixing those up, and we're throwing away the issue to talk about how the timing of the issue is not right. But I believe that this is a step in the right direction. And I believe that this should go onto the ballot so voters can make their own decision, their own educated decision, and hopefully we as a community can educate one another together. We can work with council people to make sure that we are totally educated. We can work with our legal to make sure that we fully understand issues before we pull the lever or press the button in December. But I would encourage you to put this on the ballot. I would like the chance as a city resident to vote on it, and I know lots of people who would as well. And just before I close, I want to bring this back to fixing representation. I've heard this say this doesn't fix the problem or my problem, but I have a problem with the representation for Lafayette residents. So this would fix my problem. And if not now, when? And if this is not the issue and this is not the fix, we need to have a community conversation about what is and find a solution. Because we're at a standstill now as a community, and we're fighting each other about different issues, but we need to come together and decide how we want to move forward. And I would like to see Lafayette have its own representation in that conversation. Thanks.
Very good. I just want to respond, just to let you know something. We're supposed to be voting on this in roughly 2 weeks from tomorrow night. From what I'm hearing, there's additional amendments coming to this charter, possibly new lines being changed on the map. I haven't even seen them. I have no clue what they are.
Is that fast enough?
Who's making that?
So how are we supposed to make an informed decision, notify everybody that we represent, notify everybody that's asking us questions if we don't know about it?
Right.
And next speaker, Andrew Rader. Mr. Ager, you have the floor, sir.
Fire away, sir.
Thank you for recognizing taxation without equal representation. So I invite all of you that understand that principle to send a letter to the Voting Rights Division, the federal government, complain about it, and tell them it is a problem here and get it fixed. This is not a fix. We talk about city autonomy. I have a question. Got a copy of the new document. Can the city of Lafayette, new council, propose an ordinance to change the charter to have a mayor?
Say that again.
Can the city council, new city council, propose a change to the charter to have an election for its own mayor? Answer?
You said the new city council or this one?
The new charter.
Oh, the new
charter that gives the city autonomy. It's in section 703, amending or repealing the charter. Proposals to amend or repeal the charter may be made by a 2/3 vote of the authorized members of both the city council and the parish. You city people, you still got to get permission from the parish to elect your mayor. Both. Number one.
So let's
Number two.
reiterate what you just said.
Hold on, I'll read it again. Proposals to amend or repeal this charter may be made by a 2/3 vote of the authorized membership of both the city council and the parish council. Both of them have to agree to change the charter. So if you want a mayor in the city, you got to persuade the 5 parish council members to do it for us.
Is anyone proposing?
That's not a
for
comment.
the city? A separate mayor? No, you still have the clock.
I have a question for him.
No,
I'll talk to you afterwards.
Yes, hang on, go ahead.
Next
go ahead,
question. This is deja vu. I've been to all of these meetings. I've seen the council presentation. Home rule charter, we need to change and merge the 2 governments because the parish is broke and there's political turmoil. What do we have now? The parish is broke, political turmoil.
Nothing changes.
Nothing changed. Except the city of Lafayette, parish residents living in the city of Lafayette realized the parish has problems and decided to merge with the parish under one governmental body. And they haven't done it. Because the Constitution says, state Constitution says, when you merge 2 governments, the smaller has to be absorbed by the bigger. So the parish should be absorbing everything the city of Lafayette has. Assets, liabilities, everything. It's in the state constitution. That's what's not taking place. What you need to do, you need to make that happen. Or, you de-annex my property from the city so I can be one.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, Chris Allen.
I want to thank you guys for hosting this town hall. Mr. Bellard, I'm in your district. I want to start by kind of talking about hypothetical. Imagine that we are looking to dissolve Youngsville, Broussard, Dusson, Karen Crow, all of their city councils. This is a terrible idea, and everyone in here knows it, because all those areas have problems that they need to deal with locally. Lafayette also has problems that we need to deal with. It's why 90% of the issues that you guys deal with on the city parish council are specifically Lafayette city issues. And so if we look, I know it's not what we're talking about, but if we take this idea to its extreme and we kind of hyperbolize it. Imagine we're standing in this room, we're talking about how much influence Lafayette should have on how Alexandria levies a tax, or how Baton Rouge handles its parks. It's absurd. And yet here we are talking about whether or not the people outside of the Lafayette city should have a vote, have a say in how Lafayette taxes are levied, Lafayette taxes are spent. There's an obvious representation issue. And I hear what you're saying about not wanting to pass something and then go back and have to fix it. But I was 3 years old when consolidation passed. This is not a new issue. We knew about it right now. 9 years ago, the people that were trying to push this got fed up and tried to deconsolidate entirely, and of course it failed. If 9 years ago, us trying to deconsolidate wasn't a wake-up call, wasn't a calling that says, hey, we've got to deal with this problem, I hear what you're saying. Maybe what we're looking at isn't perfect, but it fixes a major problem. It fixes a problem that we've had, that we've been asking for a solution for years, for decades. And yet, what have we done? After deconsolidation, or the deconsolidation effort failed, a handful of people went off and they tried to fix it. And they've been working on trying to fix it. And the building blocks have been coming together. And yeah, it might not be perfect, but it's an improvement. It fixes a major problem. And what's frustrating for me is that every time I hear something like this come up, I immediately see all this misinformation shoot out. They're going to sell LUS. There's nothing in this amendment that says they're going to sell LUS. Oh, the parish is broke. Well, if there's no breakdown or there's no problem with the way that we're funding the parish right now, then passing this amendment is not going to change a distribution of funds. You know, when consolidation first passed, I was 3 years old. I turned 30 on Thursday. How much slower can we go? We are missing out on opportunities. We are missing out on opportunities to build commerce, to build infrastructure. And so I would urge you to give us the opportunity to vote on this in December.
Next speaker is Steve Moe. Thank you. Steve Moe.
Gary, you had brought it up earlier that in the 90s when it was consolidated, that the unincorporated area of the parish was against it. The city was for it. Back then we had a police juror system. Every one of the police juror districts had a backhoe that would clean ditches. When we consolidated, all those backhoes went into the city. They took it all in. Now, if we deconsolidate, which it doesn't even look like we're deconsolidating according to the maps, but if you do deconsolidate, do those districts get a backhoe back to clean drainage? We're in the same boat, you know.
Look, this is another issue here that I'm going to say real quick. You mentioned earlier that you're separating the two councils, everything else stays the same.
Yep.
Which means, as if you're still city parish government, the parish would have to contract everything with the city of Lafayette because they have all the equipment, and they would get to the parish whenever there would be funds or at the time allowed to do so.
So to answer your question, no, you're not making the back.
No, they wouldn't.
So you can get no equipment.
No.
Next speaker, Harry Malone.
All these issues about a lack of funding, backhoe being available, and you were right, by the way, Steve, you were very right. All those issues don't get fixed or not fixed by the vote that's relevant tonight. Right. And the very particular man in the blue shirt, the mother of six, the guy in the blue suit, I think he might have left, I don't know where he went. I won't repeat everything they said. They're all 100% correct, yes. Hang on. I'm obviously for the city of Lafayette having its own council and fair representation, just like the other municipalities have. That's all we want. I have one question for you. If we don't put this on the ballot, we vote for it, then I'll have a mistake. And we make a mistake and it's not perfect. Because nothing's perfect. Many people have agreed. We can spend 6 years, we won't have a perfect system. Can't we tweak it later in another election if the people want? Can't we fix it again? Can't we keep tweaking it like businesses operate on a weekly and daily basis? Is that possible?
From what I understand, actually, the new charter that they've written actually allows the charter to be amended a lot easier than it is now. They're reducing the amount of the percentages needed in order to change the charter. Is that correct, guys? I think I remember something about the
That might be good or bad, you know.
Go ahead.
I'm just asking one
He's got the floor.
thing. That may be good or bad, it's yet to see. I'm just asking about one thing. I think the people of Lafayette Parish are intelligent. I think we can make our own decision. We're not rushing too fast. We have 3.5 months to read, talk, discuss, debate, evaluate. Please don't deprive the citizens of the right to make our own decision. Don't 5 of you on the 9 tell it. Give us that opportunity, please.
Kevin, you have the floor.
Thank you. And I apologize for reaching back to my own quarter days and stepping out. So my apologies to the crowd and to you guys for speaking up earlier. But it is something that's very emotional to me. It's something that I believe very passionately in. I'm a Parish of Lafayette resident. I'm a Parish of Lafayette taxpayer. I'm a City of Lafayette resident. I'm a City of Lafayette taxpayer. And we're going to a vote of the parish to tell me whether or not I can have my own council. You are all good people. We are all good people here at a town hall meeting, participating in the public process. This is one of those things that if we could sit down at the grocery store line and talk about together, we could see eye to eye. And it's politics that's keeping us apart right now. It's politics, pure and simple. This does not fix the parish problem. This is not me as a City of Lafayette resident saying, good riddance, because that's my problem too. I got 2 problems. I got a problem that we don't have a funded parish government, right? And I have a problem that as a City of Lafayette taxpayer, I am losing control of what happens to my taxes. This LUS issue is a perfect example of how the politics of this thing are making us turn against each other. About the politics of this thing can take a conversation that could happen in a grocery store line and making it like this, right? Here's raise of hands. If you support this proposal, please raise your hand. If you want to sell LUS, keep your hands up. If you think it'd be a good idea to sell or lease or otherwise dispose of LUS, put your hand down. No, that means keep it up. Right? There is no conspiracy here, guys. Like, we as Lafayette taxpayers own that system. It puts $23 million a year into the city taxes, into our thing. You know what that means? It means we have the lowest taxes in this parish and some of the lowest taxes overall in the state as the City of Lafayette. And we can do that because we own and control LUS. We need to own and control LUS into the future, but we are losing our representation. The population is shifting, and we're getting to a point where we will not be able to outvote, quote unquote, people who from outside the City of Lafayette. That doesn't mean these are bad guys, right? I've disagreed with both of these guys plenty of times. They're not bad guys, but they have priorities that are different from mine. Only 10% of William's district are City of Lafayette residents. If William does or does not vote to sell LUS, does or does not vote to give the police a raise or not, his city residents can't vote him out. This is about accountability.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, Jeff Daly. Is that right? You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. So I wanted to kind of a couple of clarifications and a couple of questions at the end. First, I wanted to thank both you gentlemen for your service. I did some quick math. In 11 years, you guys have probably invested more than like 10,000 hours, in this city, in this parish. And I think there's a little round of applause. I also want to thank everyone here who showed up. You know, we may not all agree, but we all took the time to actually come be a part of this process, and I think that's a pretty cool thing, you know, as well. I think I have respect for everyone in this room for that purpose as well. I'm definitely disappointed that aspects of this rollout were botched. I think the goal was to work towards consensus. Obviously, that's not the direction we're on right this second. But I don't think that also negates the merits of the problems that the proposed amendments are focused on fixing, which is fairness and representation. They're not focused on trying to fix all the parish issues. They're trying to focus on fixing fairness and representation. To Councilman Theriot's idea about the areas of influence with the unincorporated parish for Lafayette and winding down parish government, I think it's an interesting idea that should totally be explored. At the same time, you could do that even if we accept these amendments. They're not mutually exclusive, right? Secondly, even if your idea is politically possible, because it may require people in unincorporated areas to pay more in taxes, which is never easy to get approval on. If that were to happen, the city would still need its own city council created, which is what these amendments do, right? Because you would not have any council. If you wind down the parish council, you would not have representation for the city. At that point, we'd have to create a city council. You know, so
It would be the same, right?
yeah. I also want to clarify that the current setup of the 9 districts have a little bit of the city in every one of the districts. So in theory, you could have a city resident on all nine city parish councils as they currently represent. So the shift to 5 districts with little bits of the city in each doesn't actually change anything from what the current setup is. Theoretically, right? It may not be likely, but it is technically possible on that front. Also, with these amendments, with the current maps, there are 3 majority parish districts. Currently, there's only 4 out of 9 parish majority council seats on the consolidated council. So the parish would actually gain control over parish government in these amendments. If I was someone who lived in the parish, not the city, I'd say that's great. You know, that's actually a good thing overall. Also, the comment about deconsolidation, I think it's important to think about this as not deconsolidation of government. This is a partial deconsolidation of governance. And it's not about making it perfect, it's about fairness and representation again. That's the entire point of the whole thing. On the too fast, it's been said before, but we still have 4 more months to vote. There's a lot of time to have discussions about this, and you know what? If the answers to our questions aren't satisfactorily answered, let's vote the thing down and go back to the drawing board. Because the reality is there's a lot of passion on the city side that's not going to go away. So something's going to change at some point, and this seems like a reasonable step in the right direction on things from my perspective. Now, I wanted to go ahead and address a great point that Councilman Theriot made earlier, which is that we have not been talking enough about the impact of these amendments on the parish. I think that's extremely important to be talking about. Because if I was someone who lived outside the city, I actually do live in the city, I'm in District 3. If I lived outside the city, I'd actually be upset if I heard that my elected official is spending 80–90% of their time on city issues, not parish issues, and stuff. But at the same time, you're doing the right thing, because the budget's 10 times bigger on stuff. Okay. But the final comment is I don't think it's possible to be a great parish councilman and a great city councilman at the same time.
Okay, thank you, sir. James, Mayor?
Yeah, I think years ago, whenever consolidated government came into existence, the mindset at that time was that it would be the better thing to do for people in the parish as well as people in the city. Everybody envisioned something that was just going to be exuberant growth. It's much easier to govern when there's largesse, but it's much more difficult when it's time to be austere. We certainly have to look at the situation that we find ourselves in now. It's a little more austere than it has been in times past. The problem that I think many people like myself feel is that when it comes to representation, we keep saying, hey, hold the line, be fiscally responsible, but we don't see the fiscal responsibility, so that's a big issue. Like it or not, back then, the decision was made by the city parish to give up their autonomy. Now they want autonomy. I'm not saying they shouldn't have it, but I'm saying that was something that they decided, let's give it up. And they gave it up. And now they see that, oh my gosh, now I want to get it back. Well, in order to get it back, they got to rely on the people who are not really interested in giving it back to them, perhaps. Because the population has changed. And there seems to be a rush, this appears to me, there seems to be a rush. We've got to do it now. Can't wait till the 2020 census. Well, it's because you may not want to know what you know is going to turn out. The population shift is not going to favor you. I'm not saying that's the way it's going to be, but it seems to look like that to people who question these things. I happen to agree with you, sir. What you said a while ago about, because of the concern, somebody says, well, you know, got all these people out in the unincorporated areas. Well, this is not a large landmass. So consolidate it all and give representation from those outside incorporated areas into the city. That way those people can hear what the concerns are outside and what the concerns are on the inside. And let's use the minds, the good minds that we have, to come up with some good decision making. And let's quit throwing darts at everybody else and turning it political like Kevin says. Let's come together and make that work. Like I said, it's much easier to deal when you got plenty of money. But everybody's fighting for the same nickel. And so they don't want you to have the nickel. They don't want you to have the nickel. And then they turn around and give up a tax base, like this gentleman said, to people that should be paying more. Okay? I wish my business, I run a business, I wish my business, I'm waiting right now for extra income to come in. It's coming. I'm just waiting on it. In fact, I'm waiting on somebody to just send it to me like, you just pass the tax and I'll just get some extras. No, I got to go fight for that. I just got to deal with Mr. Market. Why can't the city officials deal with what they've got? That's all I'm asking.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, Andre Bro.
So first of all, I want to thank y'all both for hosting this town hall this evening. I'm a District 7 resident. I live in Councilwoman Cook's district. I went to her town hall last week, another town hall last week as well, and I really do appreciate these town halls. I think this is democracy at work, getting to debate issues like this, and really it's a debate on democratic principles. One being self-governance for the city of Lafayette, and another being better aligning taxation and representation. And I think one of the ways of doing that is to fix the flaws that are in Lafayette's home rule charter. And the spirit, that's what this proposal is trying to accomplish. The spirit of the proposal is to provide more equitable representation to both the city of Lafayette and the parish of Lafayette. The woman who was talking about the drainage issues in the unincorporated area, having a parish council that could focus exclusively on parish issues might give more time and attention to an issue like that. So I think this proposal is a step in the right direction. Another democratic principle is checks and balances, and I think one of the checks and balances in how ordinances are vetted is that they actually have to come before the council twice. So in terms of the rush issue, that's why you have an ordinance introduced first, and then later it's presented a second time for adoption. So this ordinance has been introduced, which is how the process works, and now there's time for debate and discussion. And if there are issues that emerge that need to be fixed, then there's an amendment process for that, and that's how it works. And I think that these town halls have surfaced some issues that may need to be looked at, some amendments that the council might want to address when this does come for final adoption, and that is how the process works. I applaud the effort to pursue solutions to fixing the charter, and I think y'all have brought up some other solutions or ideas as well, and if you feel strongly that those are better solutions, I encourage you to continue to pursue those. But I think we can all agree that there are some fundamental flaws in the charter that need to be addressed. And so I applaud the effort to try to fix those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, Dave Dixon.
I'm a resident of the parish and councilman in the Lawrence district. And, you know, I hear a lot of, it seems like nobody here is satisfied with what's going on right now or the direction that we're going to go in this entity. So I did a little research here while everybody was speaking. There's 3,142 county-like entities in the United States. 3,142. There's about 300 that are like Lafayette. They have a city of 100,000 or greater population. There's also about 100 think tanks out there devoted to political and economic issues. And my question to the legal people and the people that drew this thing up is that I guarantee you that it's been looked at by one of these think tanks. What's good governance for an entity like we have? It's called doing due diligence. It's exactly what you do when you make an investment. we're fixing to make a major change here. We need to do our due diligence. Has it been done?
You're asking me a question that's a question for Mr. Castillo, Mr. Conk, and these individuals.
Well, I mean, if you wrote it, did you look at what other, did you look at what was done in other like type?
Who came up with this?
Hang on. Mr. Escott, answer this question, please, sir.
Sure. I was not asked to look at other models, business models, government models, anything like that related to the charter amendments that we drafted per the request of my client, which is council members of LCG. They're a part of my client. These gentlemen are also my client. So if they were to ask me to draft an ordinance to do X, Y, or Z, I would draft it for them and tell them whether it's legal or illegal. I wouldn't advise them to pass an ordinance that's illegal. But if there was a request or an objective to look at other business models or governmental models, that was not what part of our task was. Within the 45 days that we worked on this project, our task was to look at the current charter and make whatever amendments we believe legally were necessary to achieve the splitting of the legislative branch of the current government from one council to two. And that's what we did.
And you have 30 more seconds, just want to let you know.
Well, if we're going to make a change of this magnitude, maybe we need to slow down here. We need to go look at what other communities like us have done that have been very successful, and to go look at that model and say, is this what we need to do in Lafayette, Louisiana?
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, Bobby Dawson.
Bellard, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
And I appreciate everyone's opinions that are here. I can understand both sides of the argument to a degree. One of the opening statements was from the legal department that it was a mitigating circumstance that brought Conk and the other representatives to bring this whole issue about. One, I've heard all kinds of things about yet to hear a mitigating circumstance. Secondly, the thing that I catch kind of unique in here, and I don't really think it's that unique, but if you look at the demographic of the opinion, you can find that the older generation, for the most part, I won't say across the board, but the older generation, for the most part, are on one side of the fence versus the younger generation on the other side of the fence. Now, I was young at one time. Believe it or not, I was. Okay? I got 4 knee surgeries to prove it. I moved to the Lafayette area back in the 70s, in 71, exactly. Why? Was it to go to USL? No, it was because Playboy magazine said it was the #1 party school in the nation. If you're not age, you remember that. But I'm pretty that serious, okay?
Hey, you need to face this way when you're talking about stuff like that.
You can look at it, it's the truth. Okay. But my point is this, is that I understand for most of us, that are in the retirement range or the retirement age group. We've worked our behinds off, we've paid our taxes, we've done our due diligence, and we've done everything we could to save our money, to do wise investments so that we could and possibly move outside the city area. Now, we still pay taxes that are ridiculous, okay? I was born and raised in a parish that was actually a dictatorship. Now, I heard somebody make a statement a while ago about Jefferson Parish. Let me tell you about Plaquemines Parish real quick. I know Leander Perez, okay, and Topcop Perez. I was born and raised there in a little town called Buras. It was subdivided into 8 districts, from Belle Chase to Venice, but yet it was operated under one council. It was equal across the board. Where did they get the majority of the revenue? Judge Leander Perez. He stole it. Bottom line, he had illiterate people sign an X to a piece of paper where he got the majority of the mineral oil rights. Bottom line. Okay? Along with St. Bernard Parish. But yet it was still ruled under one council. Today, Plaquemines Parish still is ruled that way. And it's very successful, even though the majority of the people are no longer there because of the flooding and Katrina. My point being this: it's not going to get solved tonight, folks. We have representation when we go to the ballots. But I can tell you this: what we have right now, and I understand this younger generation want to move, because we're in a microwave system. We want an instant reply, instant answers now. I'm sorry, I don't call them quick grits or instant OPM. You need to slow down a little bit and see the whole.
Okay, I have to go to the next speaker.
Yes.
Nancy Mount.
To the younger generation, it would have been nice in 1992 when some of us opposed consolidation in the city. For some of you to have been around back then. But anyway, it's rewarding that you're here now. Quick question to the attorney. You said you had expedited this process for the whole charter in 45 days. Did I understand that correctly?
I said we were told of this project. We were engaged in this project, told of this project, I believe it was the first week in May, May 3rd, somewhere around there. And since May 3rd, I've worked on this project to try and do the edits to achieve our client's request.
Can someone explain to me why this has to be on a December low turnout ballot? Whose decision?
That is a question for the council members that are authored.
So this decision was not made by the council as a whole. It was made by the two individuals who wrote this charter? Is that what you're saying?
As to where, what ballot?
When?
That would be the decision of the ones who authored this.
Which is Jay Castile and... Second question.
And I think Councilman Boudreaux as well.
Second question, conflict has been talked about twice. If the new city council assesses the new parish council, and the new parish council refuses to pay the new city council, with whom does the mayor side? Does the mayor side with the city, and the parish president side with the parish, and he argues with himself? I mean, how is that going to work?
What do you mean by assess? The city assesses the parish. What are you talking about?
If there's an intergovernmental agreement, and the city says to the parish, if you want us to provide backhoe services, I don't know what a backhoe looks like. If you want us to provide backhoe services, we're going to charge you X. And the parish says, we don't have X. We're not going to pay you X. With whom does the mayor president side?
Yeah,
My point is, you have a mayor
Right, you're asking
president.
a question that doesn't occur. In other words, an intergovernmental agreement is an agreement. And for the parish, it's a contract. And for the parish, they would have to get approval of the parish council to execute the intergovernmental agreement, and they would agree to the contract. But if they can't afford the contract, they're not going to agree to the
My
contract.
point is that you have a mayor president serving multiple masters, and I don't think you can possibly run a government without avoiding conflict.
Right, let me just make this clear. You currently have that today.
I agree.
Right?
That's the problem.
You currently have it today, and you will continue to have it after these amendments. So I'm not sure if there's a legal question somewhere in there for me, but I'm just setting, the facts are what the facts are. I wasn't asked as the legal department of LCG to change any structure related to the mayor president's duties, responsibilities, or office.
I had a third question, but he talked more than I did.
Yeah.
I have to go to the next speaker. Final speaker, Karen Mayor.
Thank you very much, and I would like to thank everybody for coming because we're not getting paid to come to these meetings. And this is the fourth meeting my husband and I attend, and I'd like to say that it has been the most balanced because the leadership has given us, in my opinion, the best answers. I would also like to say that I asked my council member, Mr. Castillo, if he would explain to us at his town hall meeting about LUS, and he said he could not answer that. He told us that we had to ask Mr. Robideau about it.
Ask who?
Mr. Robideau. Also, I'd like to say that Mr. Castillo also stated that it was possible for any changes in the proposal to take place up until the last minute before the council would vote on it.
Let's go with that.
And then I'll end with a question, and that's it. Thank you. Why, if so many things are broken, then why do we want to manage out LUS, which looks to be like a golden egg?
Well, and it's kind of not a charter amendment, and I think, that's going to be, the public's going to have to ask those hard questions to the people who have entered, who started all this or are thinking it's a good idea. I really cannot answer that because I'm just finding out about it, just like all y'all. And the whole council, as far as I'm concerned, on that matter, I believe. Listen, guys, thank y'all so much for coming. I'm going to say a couple of closing remarks, and I'll let Mr. Theriot. I'd like to thank the attorneys for coming. I think that the best thing with this is whether if you're for it or against it, let's just go vote. And thank y'all. Mr. Theriot?
Real quick, I've been asked to ask this group an unprofessional poll. Let me quote, media, unprofessional. How many here thinks the LUS issue and the deconsolidation issue are intertwined? Just raise a hand. Okay. So with that said, guys, look, thank you. I know that sometimes we have answers that we may not have the greatest ones, but thank you all for coming. Any questions, y'all let us know.
The preceding program was made possible in part with production assistance provided by AOC Community Media.